Good afternoon. You're listening to the Digital Escapism podcast, and if it's not the afternoon when you're listening to this podcast, then good whatever time it is you are listening to it. Is that good enough for you, Chris?
I see what you did
got
there.
any comments?
I see what
on
you
my
did.
introduction?
It's very good. Keep going. Keep going.
Thank you, Chris.
That covers everyone.
Okay, so as you may be able to determine that I'm not Greg Roke, I am taking over for the introduction for this episode. My name is Jack the Living Lightning Fulcard. I'm here joined by my co-host, Greg the Living G Roke.
Thank you very much, Jack. Happy to be here.
Tom the Stone Cold Stunner Pryor.
Hello.
Chris Bong Water Horton.
Hi.
Nick Who Dat Rowe.
Hello.
And Joe Mike Check Chesney.
Hello.
I'm introducing this episode. I just wanted to let you know that I keep it pretty looser than Greg does, as the old stiff board. But I just want to, swing you the whole option of catching us on Twitter, twitter.com DE_podcast. Find us on Facebook. You can also grab us on Instagram at Digital Escapism. Also drop by our website, why don't you, at digitalescapism.co.uk, where we'll be trying to keep up to date on like news and stuff, and throwing up some writings and our opinions on changes to the gaming world and any good games that we've been playing. And also catch us on iTunes and all good podcast apps, and drop us a review and give us some 5 stars, or give us lower than 5 stars if you don't think we earn 5 stars. And I'm not going to tell you what to do. That's my whole vibe.
I bet Tom would be the sort of person that goes, I can't give him 5 stars. No one's 100%.
Yeah, no one's 100%. Don't give anyone. If you've ever given any kind of podcast 5 stars, then you're lying to yourself and everyone around you. So we're still recording at All Gen. Shane, the manager, has politely asked us to leave several times, and we've refused. He said he's gone to go get a knife, but I'm willing to risk it, and Greg's closest to the door, so who cares? And I just want to welcome everyone, and today's episode we're going to be talking about virtual reality, VR, PlayStation VR, Hive, any kind of virtual reality really. And I'm going to be throwing it over to Tom first, because he's only had his first experience in virtual reality today, within the last 2 hours.
Popped his cherry.
Jack, can I
So
just say, Jack, by the way,
Yep.
I thought you did really well in that introduction. So
what,
if no one else says that to you, I think you did a really good job.
You know what, Greg? I appreciate it.
I'm not going to
I've
score
had a
you
hard day.
10 out of 10. I'm going to score you 8.5 out of 10, but
Good.
it was very good first
Good,
attempt.
because you should never, ever, ever on anything give us 100% score. Nothing deserves 100%. If it's artistic, then there's always room for improvement.
I always give 100%, but you guys aren't on my level, so
Or
that's
if
fine.
it's our podcast that you're leaving a review for.
Yeah, I mean, just for support. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. Thank you so much for that, though, Greg.
That's
I
okay,
really
my friend.
appreciate that. God, I'm so stressful. I'm so sorry. I've not been to 100%. But anyway, back to VR. So, Tom, we're going to give our initial impressions of virtual reality first of all. And Tom, you've played virtual reality. Tell us what you've been playing on, what you've played, and what your initial impressions is on that.
Sure. I guess I've admired it from afar before. I've not yet had the opportunity to play it until today.
Mm-hmm.
I was lucky enough to play the VR Worlds game, The Heist,
Oh, yeah?
and I was just absolutely blown away by it, actually. I guess you all know by now that it's a pair of glasses that you put on, I guess, is the best way to describe it. It sits on the back of your head.
Glasses, goggles, any kind of wearable apparatus that you have on your eyes.
And you would probably be using a headset as well for full immersion, so I was fully immersed in the experience, and I was just absolutely blown away by it. The first thing that struck me was just how good it looked on this particular game that I played. You're sitting down to begin with, and a guy walks in from the distance, and it looked absolutely lifelike. I thought I was actually there.
Mm-hmm.
He puts a gun to your head. I screamed. It was that sort of realistic. And as I progress further through it, you can do things where you're picking up guns, or it looks like you could be solving puzzles. And it's really intuitive the way that you use the two. Oh, I forgot to mention you get 2 sticks to play with.
Yeah.
And they have triggers on the back, and you pull the trigger, and that's sort of like your grabbing hands. So you hold in one in your left hand and one in your right hand, and with your fingers you're squeezing the triggers to pick up objects. And it's really intuitive the way that it's 100% tracking your movements, and you can pick up, like, there's a lit cigar on the table, and a lighter, and you can sort of pick up the cigar with one hand, put the lighter to it with the other hand, and actually light this cigar.
And it feels very natural, doesn't it, with these triggers?
So intuitive. It is almost like you're grabbing it. After we played the demo, I was mentioning to some of the guys that I kind of get really lost in these sort of worlds, and even in like games when I've sort of got the curtain shut and the lights off, I find myself living it. And I think I'd be one of them guys who is playing VR and kind of forgets he's playing a game, and maybe like he picks up a real knife and maybe stabs himself in the leg for real.
Takes off the headset, start talking to your fiance. Right, listen, this is a fucking deal. I want food on the table at 900 hours. Don't be late.
So, Greg, you've also played it for the first time today as well.
I have, yeah.
What are your opinions of it?
Um,
Because you also played the London game.
The
London game.
heist.
The
The
heist.
heist I think is a great example. I'd watched some of the guys play before, and I think Tom might mind me saying this. He got stuck on a bit where it was very difficult kind of positioning, where there were people coming above, below, and on the same level.
Call it how it is. I kept dying.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I
yeah.
did
But
die.
it was a hard, and Tom then was just trying to think, do I stand up? Do I sit down? So I knew from some of the gameplay demos that I'd watched that there's a very good level where you are sitting in the van. And as you're sitting in the van, enemies are driving past you, so it is very much on the rails, and there's less emphasis about height. It's more around just kind of like, staying on the same level and shooting at them. And I really enjoyed it. I'm not going to lie, I really enjoyed it. It felt so strange to have those controllers. Like, you're so acutely aware that you've got controllers in your hand, and then as soon as you put that headset on, I don't know. It just that they seem to just dissolve, and they don't feel like controllers anymore. And they've really. And I was watching the screen while Tom was playing. I was laughing to Chris and saying, "Oh, those hands remind me of a kids show where there used to be this magical hand drawing with a big pencil." And I was laughing about that, and like the big hand from Smash Bros, the big white glove. But then it just felt natural when you were doing it. And of course, the first thing I started doing was seeing if I could punch the characters, and then picking up cans and throwing it at the guy's head because. I don't know. It's just one of the things I wanted to do.
Could you punch the characters?
You couldn't in that simulation. No, I was desperately trying.
And they didn't react to a can of drink being thrown at their head either.
No, but when I picked it up, I picked up a can of drink, and he went, "Oh, I wouldn't drink that, mate." And I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." Like, there's a lot in there where they've done it, and I really enjoyed it. I suppose if you'd have asked me 20 minutes ago, I would have said nothing but good things about it. But in the time that it's taken me to calm down, I suppose one of the things that I've thought about is how much it's going to stay after that initial excitement. Because this is a brand new thing for me. And last time we were at All Gen and Joe played it, I'm pretty much convinced the whole journey home Joe was thinking about how quick he could get a VR because he'd had that same experience and I hadn't got it, and it's hard to put my head in the picture. I think you do. You got to back me up here, Joe. You do. As soon as you play it, you think, I want it. Yeah, you get that impression where you're like, oh, I just want it. So I guess, what I'm trying to say to you is I really enjoyed it. We've just played, today we've played PSVR, and I think around the table our main base experience is PSVR. But I think, that there is going to be a follow-up at All Gen when we get the Vive set up, that we're going to do a multi-room, and we're going to try that because that's double the price, and I think there's going to be some good points coming out of that. But I mean, I'm very interested to hear what you think about it, man, because you were playing a racing game, and that was completely different kettle of fish. You had a wheel, you had the pedals, you had the analog stick, because you put some stuff up on the Instagram page.
I certainly did. And just for all those who are listening who picked up on that, they do they let people come down at All Gen so you can play the virtual reality just for a small fee and give it a try. So if you're curious about virtual reality, just pop on down to All Gen or to your local, I don't know, gaming arcade. If you've got anything similar to this, pop down to that. But yeah, so I went down to our good friend Bobbert's house and played his PlayStation Virtual Reality, and he's got a big rig set up because he's very much into his racing games. Jesus Christ, like my stomach was churning when I was like making some of those turns. Like it really does affect you, like the actions you take in that world, like it affects your body and like how you feel about stuff. Like I played 3 games. I played Rally, I played Star Wars Battlefront virtual, like they had a virtual VR game, and they also played Resident Evil. Rally was like really gripping, and it really like made me frantic and made me panic and squeal like a girl every time I took a corner too sharply, or I was too fast. It was really tense, and really like gut crushing. And then like when I was playing Resident Evil 7, one of the things I love about Resident Evil 7 and why I think that potentially this has got a really good area for improvement is because, as you know, Resident Evil 7, there's lots of exploration and trying to find like ammo and things and little like keys and stuff. When you're playing Resident Evil 7, you can look above stuff and look down below stuff and under things, so it really does encourage you to be using virtual reality to its fullest. So you can be looking behind curtains when you couldn't beforehand to grab stuff, and you can be looking down vases that would otherwise be impossible for anyone to see. But like one of the things I was doing as I was like crawling around everywhere is I'd get to the side of a door and just like turn my head to the left and like peer around the door, so I
as you naturally would.
As you naturally would if you were like a real person, a real horrifying experience.
Can I ask, man, do you have to play it with a controller? Because you couldn't play it with those move sticks, could you?
Yeah, you play it with a controller.
So you're playing with a controller in your hand. Do you think that takes anything away
No,
from the experience?
I melted away. With Resident Evil 7, I was terrified. I don't know if it's Resident Evil 7, but it's the Resident Evil on PSVR. I was so gripped and so like terrified at like every single thing I was doing that I wasn't even thinking that I had a controller in my hand.
Yeah, you can't like look away either, can you? Yeah. That's the crazy thing.
Like when you got that kind of suspension, and I know that people are playing it like, I wasn't really that scared. I was terrified. When you got that kind of like suspension, like that tension, I'm not thinking about my hands. I'm thinking about what's ahead of me, and my hands melt away, and I'm just like in that house, like creeping and crawling around it, getting all like freaky-jicky and stuff like that.
That was one of the things that impressed me the most today was, and it sounds obvious to say, but looking left and right with tilting your head and you see more of the world. You're so restricted, and I guess on that flat plane when you're playing on a conventional PS4, is that you've got to manually look around. But when you're turning your head, it just adds this whole other, I guess, element to it, and it makes it so much more immersive, and it's really exciting to think of some of the experiences that we'll get moving forward, and what worlds we'd be able to discover that they can pop on there for us.
I really want to ask Chris his opinion, because he's recently started playing it as well, and I don't know what Nick or Joe, have you had a go at it yet? Have you ever been on VR?
Unfortunately not.
Okay. I'm going to ask Chris, but the first thing I really want to say is that I am really shocked that Tom likes these virtual reality games. Like, really in shock.
Yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed I didn't put my glasses on though, because it was really blurred. My glasses. Oh, I didn't put my glasses on.
That's a good question, actually, Tom. Do you know if it works with glasses?
I don't know. I mean, I said to Shane that I'm going to try it out my glasses. What do you think? And he was like, well, it's meant to be played with them on, but I don't even wear my glasses to drive, so I was just like, well, I'll be fine. But it was still a little bit blurry, and I'm not sure.
You have to get it dead on your head. Yeah. I was playing around with it. I must have moved mine about 5 or 6 times. You have to get it in the right spot. It sounds really strange, but it was like at the crown of my head, the band.
I don't think
and it was slipped forward completely. Yeah, it's very hard to get it on your head.
I think a combination between not having it on right and not wearing my glasses made it blurry, because obviously it's a screen that's 2 or 3 inches
and you've got a
from
freakishly large head as well, like that clearly causes issues.
And really little ears. So.
And really small ears, yeah. We're painting you out to look like an imp.
He's kind of like a mole man.
A picture like a mole man.
Imagine Gollum.
Yeah, Gollum.
I've been called Gollum before.
Gollum with a smaller penis.
Well, yeah.
So, just to get back to your question, Jack.
Just give me your opinion.
Yeah, do you know what? I've dabbled in VR only very recently, in the last couple of weeks. I've had some good hands-on time with it. And,
hands-on, nice word.
Yeah. And
sorry if I interrupted you there.
No, it's fine. No, it happens to the best of us, don't worry.
He's going to cut you now.
Going back to my initial reaction when I first put it on, I was in absolute awe. It amazed me. Yeah, it was the closest I could get to being a kid and unwrapping a really cool Christmas present again. Like gaming's been the same pretty much my whole life. Like, although we've like how we play the games has been the same my whole life, and VR was always that next step. And to actually try it, I was in complete awe, and I thought it was really, really awesome.
It's good to hear.
Yeah. I also played
the rally game.
Yeah, the rally game with the steering wheel and all that, and it's just such an immersive experience. Like, I mean, I already owned Dirt Rally anyway, so Rob was, because I went round his house and played it as well with all the peripherals.
Down to Bobbits.
Good
You
old
should
Rob.
stop charging money. All you two coming around separately. Yeah, come in.
Take advantage of his credit card debt.
So he was quite surprised that I actually like got round all right, because it's actually quite a hard game, isn't it? It's very simulation orientated.
I don't play racing games that much.
Right, yeah.
But I was really enjoying that, and I was fucking myself over 20 times.
But that first, when you're sitting there and it's like 3, 2, 1, and then obviously go, when you first put your foot down and you first move off of the spot, and obviously your body doesn't go anywhere, and you first start moving, it's the weirdest feeling, because your brain is telling your body that it's about to feel this inertia of moving forward, and you don't get any of it at all.
That's so crazy.
So it took me a little while to settle into it, but what I will say about it that I was really surprised at, really apprehensive about, and almost worried about going into VR was a lot of the reports surrounding the motion sickness. Lots of people have mentioned it, commented on it, and I was worried potentially that, because I get a bit like that, especially if I'm in a car and I'm like reading a text message or something and I don't look up, like I can get like quite motion sickness, quite prone to it. But I didn't have hardly any of that. It was only after a prolonged time with some quite intense games that I felt a little bit queasy.
Yeah.
But I'm happy with the fact that you can kind of immunise yourself to that.
I wasn't laughing at that. I was laughing at imagining you with a headset on and the headphones, the controllers in Rob's like spare gaming room going as you're playing.
But yeah, you can kind of immunise yourself to that, and to be honest with you, I didn't have. I thought it'd be much worse than what it was. I think it's been overstated.
You think so?
Yeah,
I did as well.
I mean, I've not played a racing game, so I was quite interested to hear your thoughts on that, because you hear the reports and people are like, oh, you're going to get motion sickness.
Do you know what
like
one done me? To be honest, it was Rigs. I played Rigs, and that's the one that a lot of people complain about actually.
Oh, well, because it's so fast paced.
I think so. Yeah, and it's like
your brain's struggling to process all of the changes.
And it was after playing that one I felt a little bit queasy, but I tell you what, this is going to be absolutely amazing and fantastic for games where your character that you are is stationary but possibly in a moving vehicle. So say for example anything where you're in a cockpit, anything where you're driving, anything where you're in a seat, so mech games as well. Like, I mean, it is going to be absolutely phenomenal for that sort of thing.
I would love a really good, like, Rigs is a bit too fast paced.
Yeah,
for me,
you're right.
I'd love a really good mech warrior.
Like Steel Battalion, like you mentioned earlier. Imagine that in a
VR
and reaching out for the buttons. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
that's cool.
Oh, it would be so sick.
Do you know what
man.
I'm thinking?
What are you thinking?
A bit more out there, but you remember, like, like Myst and stuff like that on
right,
PC?
yeah.
Yeah, imagine a remapped Myst in 4K in HDR as like a
point and
action
click
sort of puzzle adventure, where you're on a mysterious island, like really ramping it up a little bit, and you're solving puzzles. I think there's so much innovation, potential innovation that you're going to see out of this. I mean, Jack, you said to me the biggest thing that you're excited for is when they make a Dead or Alive VR game. I'm joking. You're really looking forward to that.
I was just about to say that I think, like, when you're playing it, you're going to need a spare pair of clothes and a bucket, because I was sweating profusely just for the 10 minutes I played it.
I tell you what,
you need a spare pair of clothes for Dead or Alive.
When I was playing Resident Evil, I was playing Resident Evil: The Kitchen, because I played that before I went and played round Bobberts. When I was playing that, I was sweating bucket. I was literally terrified playing that. Like, I'm a big wuss, to be fair. Like,
it is really intense, though. I mean,
do you know,
in the short time I had of it, I was pretty moist.
I'll tell you what's really funny thing about VR that you absolutely do not think about whatsoever before you go into it, but the fact that
it's better be fun now.
If you was on your own, you would fucking struggle so much to get that headset or get that on. Where's the controllers? Oh,
you spilt stuff, Chris.
I was looking for the controllers. See, this is an example of the things that could happen.
But when you knock that down, you weren't actually wearing the headset. You were just pretending.
Do you know what a simple solution to this would be that no one's thought about?
What's that?
Maybe you can. A little flap on the front.
Yeah,
that you lift up the
yeah,
flap,
just so you can see the
and then you've got
controller
the
and that.
goggles on, so you look like that guy out of Blade Runner that's opening and dissecting the eyeballs with the big goggles in front of him.
'Cause I
but you can see
literally-
what's going on in the world before, and then you put the flap down when you're ready to play.
I think I would need like a little VR butler just to help me out, like to always be there, just to like hand me the controllers and
Christopher,
stuff. You know,
your move controllers are here, sir.
I've prepared them for you.
Alright, so our next question I'm laying out to everyone is, what we think is next for VR. Like, how do we think it's going to grow? What potential do we think it's got in the long run?
Yeah, first things first, I think the price point's going to be a sticking point. As it stands today, it's currently £300.
Even for the
RRP
PlayStation
for
VR.
PlayStation VR, and that's the
That's the
price of
cheapest
the
one.
console as well.
And that's not half of it. Ideally, you need a PS4 Pro. You need Move controllers.
You do.
So that's gone from 600. From 300 to 600.
Start stacking
Then
up.
you've got the controllers. Then you've got a decent headset. You're looking at about 700 or 800 quid to
And
get
the
this set up
camera,
properly.
you need the camera as well,
Yeah.
don't you? And that's
And
sold
you need
separately.
room, so I mean, you're going to be looking
Yeah,
at
you're right.
about £800, which is
No, I think you can get all of it for about 500, 550.
I think it's
If-
about 6 to 7.
If you've already got the console, that is.
okay.
Yeah.
I
So
mentioned it in my article that's going to be up on Digscape, or it will be by the time you listen to this, that I think that currently what we're looking at now is like an experimentational phase of PSVR, and I speak very much where what I've played on it I really, really enjoyed, and what I saw and what I'm seeing has got a lot of potential for future games and for playing stuff for when you're in a mech, or playing like potentially point and click adventures or like exploration games. I think there's a lot of potential there, and I think that VR is something that we've wanted since we were little kids, so I think it deserves a lot of support. And I also make mention of it in there, like what it means to support VR, and that it doesn't necessarily mean that you go out and you spend all that money, but maybe potentially that you go out and you try it and you experiment with it, and you go to places like this if you've got the opportunity to, and give your feedback to like developers, and like stay active and vocal in your like gaming community, and make sure that you make yourself heard when you say, I really like this aspect of the game, but what potentially took me out of it, or what potentially would prevent me from buying one of my own, is this, and trying to help improve that industry and that way of gaming for us in the future.
Sony have already hit their numbers. Do you know that?
Yeah, I did.
So they've already hit their sales targets for this.
Wow.
They hit
that's
them
impressive.
early on. They smashed the sales targets they had for this. I tell you though, one of the biggest things, and I think we've mentioned this in other episodes, is there is a very, very high drop-off rate between people purchasing this and then continued player base of it, because I think we have to acknowledge that there aren't a lot of games to support this. I mean, personally, I feel like this is in its alpha, its beta phase.
Right,
Like, we
yeah.
are essentially the beta testers, but we're paying a big, big sum to beta test that, which is fine if you're aware of that and you're happy to spend that money. If you're happy to spend this money and you know that it isn't going to deliver on everything that you hoped it would be just yet, and you know that there's going to have to be improvements, and you know that this is, very new technology, if you appreciate those factors, then I don't think you're going to be disappointed. And I don't think there's going to be a high amount of people disappointed, but I think that we need to acknowledge there are some people that bought it and then maybe thought, I kind of regret that because I've only really played it once, and it's a good party piece when people come round your house, such as with our friend Rob, who you've been round his house. But, to think, does he sit there and play that quite often? I'd be curious.
He actually does.
Yeah, but
He's on that rally game like every day.
of
Right
course he
now.
is. I mean, he's just bought it, but I'm saying let's see what he's like in a month's time, in 6
Yeah.
months'
Greg,
time.
just to come off the back of that was all brilliant. I think that the one thing that it needs, like you say, with people buying it and stuff like that, to encourage it, and what it really, really needs, it needs a killer app, right?
Yeah.
It needs like you remember when Halo come out. That was the
Okay.
game that you bought the Xbox for.
Yeah,
You wanted to play that game so bad, you went out and you dropped a shite
Yeah.
load of money on an Xbox just to play it.
And then it was Gears of War going forward.
Gears
with
of
the
War
newer
going
Xboxes.
forward.
Yeah,
You've also got,
yeah.
if you didn't have a PlayStation 3 at the time, Uncharted come out.
Yeah.
You wanted to play that game, so you bought
Yes,
a PlayStation
yeah.
3. There's nothing at the moment. There's nothing on VR that screams killer app. You need to buy this now to
Yeah.
play
No
this
Zelda
game.
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, it needs its own Zelda Breath
Yeah,
of the Wild.
yeah, exactly
because
that,
people
yeah.
that have, people that I respect when you read people's reviews and opinions on it, We all have different people that we listen to and obviously hear their feedback on it. I think that's a pretty universal message. I think you hit the nail on the head there. They have all said that you're paying top dollar for what are essentially tech demos.
Yeah, that's
like
it.
They're very good, they're very enjoyable, but you're paying the full price of a game, like for instance, a game like Skyrim that has got hundreds of hours worth of content and hundreds of sort of hours spent in production, thousands of hours, and so much stuff that's worked on it in detail. But you're paying that for a game that essentially you could do in about an hour.
Right.
And then this is because it's in its infancy. But I also wanted to say to you guys, do you think that Project Scorpio is going to support any type of VR? Because I know Microsoft at the moment seem like they're quite against VR, and we obviously haven't seen anything about Project Scorpio.
I think they've been burnt by
You think
Kinect.
so?
I think they were like, no, we're not doing it. We've been fucked on Kinect. We're not getting fucked again on VR.
Yeah.
You think?
There's too much already out there.
But surely they must be looking towards a future. I mean, we know nothing at this point, but if I was a betting man, I would bet that there's got to be some type of compatibility that's built into there for this.
I'd be very, very surprised if they don't at some point in the future come out with their own
It
version
doesn't seem
of
like
VR.
a fad now, does it? I mean, with HTC Vive, with PSVR, with all the other alliterations out there, it doesn't seem to be, there are these sort of fads that come and go, and we were talking about obviously the Steam game controllers and stuff like that. I felt like that was something that was overhyped and then undersold. But to me, I feel like, this isn't going to be something that's a fly-by-night sort of thing.
I think that Scorpio will probably support Vive and Oculus.
What, because it's Microsoft?
Yeah, pretty much.
Is that what you
that's a
think?
good point, actually. You might
That'd
be
be an
right.
interesting way to go.
Most
yeah.
of their sort of exclusives are games for Windows, aren't
Yeah.
they? So they all their sort of exclusive games are now going over to the PC as well. So maybe they're just trying to
I did not
pull
know.
the consoles
I guess
together,
that might be
console and the
potential
PC together a bit more.
Yeah, well, I said that to flush you out. I knew you was
Did
going to
you?
say that. I was
Finally
waiting
get
you.
him
I was
chatting.
waiting for you to say it. No, Joe said that to me a couple of days ago, or it was maybe a week or so ago. But I think you'd said that before, and I think you're right. I think that there's going to be some support there, and I think what you'll find that's great about that, depending on the price point, it's a great entry into being able to pick something like that up, and then also get something that supports it. Because to build a high-end gaming PC does require some basic knowledge, and then to set that up, whereas a home console, and then maybe purchase an Oculus Rift or HTC Vive, whatever you're going to use, then kind of it is more compatible for that. So it is providing that to the masses, I think. I'll be surprised if something doesn't come out of that. But I mean, what are you saying about it overall, Jack? Do you think people should buy one right now? What's your take?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I do say this. If you have the opportunity to buy one and you think that it's something that you want to get into, I'd definitely recommend trying it out first, because it is a lot of money. But I do think that whole genre of gaming has got a lot of potential. I mean, we all played it. We all really liked it. There are definitely aspects of it that need improvement, and there are definitely aspects of it. I think I see Tom nodding, I see Chris nodding. We're all like, it's not a perfect hardware. It's not a perfect hardware. There are definitely pieces of it that need improvement. And just what I would say about that is make people aware of it. Write in, send emails, Twitter it, let people know, the right people know of what your belief is, and try to keep like your opinions constructive wherever possible, and how people can improve upon stuff.
Yeah, and there are some games out there that just don't fucking buy because they're a waste of money and they're a rip-off. There are some crappy games out there for VR. Just be aware of that. Not every game is golden.
I just want to say as well, does anyone think that if it doesn't get a killer app soon, does anyone think it's going to lose momentum?
Yes,
Definitely.
absolutely.
Because that's what I'm afraid of. I'm worried.
You want to see it develop and grow, yeah?
I do, yeah, I really
as well.
do. Because
Yeah.
like Jack said, it's got so much potential, and it's absolutely fantastic for like cockpit style games
Chris,
where you're.
imagine watching a film in it.
Yeah, well, this is it.
That's
I mean,
what
With you and your missus with a headset
I
on,
mean,
and you can turn around in the film, stereoscopic.
to be honest, when I was playing it,
amazing.
I had a little go on Resi Evil, and it's really interesting how they do the cutscenes. Not necessarily the in-game ones where you're still the character and you can look around or what have you, but actually, like the video cutscenes, they do it in a way where it's almost like you're sitting in a cinema. Like they have like a big screen in front of you, and you can still look around.
Yeah.
But it feels like you're in a cinema. Like it's so cool. Like, and I could see that sort of catching on.
Yeah,
and
go
watching
out.
films in it.
Go out and try this for yourselves.
But yeah,
I think.
like I said, I am worried that I'm worried that it's going to burn out before it gets started, because there's so much potential there, and I think there is so many opportunities for so many awesome different experiences on it. You know, so, and I want it to get to the point where they've sussed it, and we've got that.
Well, thank you for that, Chris, and thanks for everyone for staying vocal on topics such as VR. I just want to thank everyone for listening to us, and again, if you live in the Kent area, pop down to All-Gen and get your video gaming on. Try and play Street Fighter. I would definitely recommend challenging Shane to a game of Street Fighter 2 and see if you've got what it takes to take him down.
I doubt you have.
No, I doubt you have.
Did we play earlier, Jack? Did we play Street Fighter earlier?
Yeah, we did.
Do you remind me how many times I've played it before that?
You've never played it before in your
Who won the game?
You admit I let you win.
No, I was only saying that earlier.
Okay, well you won one game. Well, we'll have another game in there.
Easy
We are
go,
all
ladies.
about to go. We are all about to
Smash
end this
Bros.
podcast.
I thought you I've retired because I'm 1-0.
All right, well, no one wants to play with you anyway. We are all about to, now that we finish our podcast, go out and play a good rousing game of Smash Brothers whilst Joe cleans up all these wires and puts all this shit away. But again, thank you everyone for listening, and join us next week. And again, find us on iTunes, all good podcast apps, and on our Twitter and Instagram. Thank you very much, and thank you for listening.
Is this the part where I do this thing that you do, where you scream at the end?
Yeah, you can scream if you want.